Okay, so now, guys, you know, Rick, founder, Burning Issues Group. Now that you have your email sequencing, your calendar invite, you have your follow-up calls, you have it set where you have a BIGcheck360 on the books for a meet. Now, you don't have to be super precise and say, we're coming over to do a BIGcheck360. You totally can. I do that a lot. But you don't have to have that meet up so precise. This is when you're going to go and do discovery with the client. That's what you're doing. It can be for 2 hours. It can be for 10 hours. All that is immaterial, because when you're bringing good value, they will love you to be there. You just need to get there. So let's say the calendar is set. You have your meeting. Before you go in, this is what you do. You speak to whoever gave you the lead and make sure they're caught up to snuff on what's going on. If you got a referral from someone, you make sure they know what's going on. They appreciate that. They're going to want to follow up with that client too. Say, hey, I'm so glad you're meeting with Rick, or because having it in from multiple directions for that client is going to be good. It's a validation process. Plus, you're doing right by your referrers, the BSPs. You're also going to look over the client's website. You're going to look over the client's social media. You're going to look over the industry averages for that industry. You may know this instinctively because you do this full time. You know, you're a big time advisor, which I hope you are, right? So you're going to know this maybe instinctively, but you definitely need to do some research on the company. You may need to ask that referrer some more information if they have any. You may need to ask if they're a fellow member of the association, ask the association president more about the business. You want to do a little bit of homework. I'm not talking about hours here. That was maybe 15 minutes, what I just told you. So you can do this. Confirm, obviously, the meeting and go in for day one. So day 0 is prep. Day 1 is you walk in. I can't tell you this enough. Be fun. Be happy, smile, have a joke, talk about the kids, say how you loved the saltwater fish tank. I'm going to bring that up again in the front entryway. Talk about the weather, the sports team that's local to you. You have to be able to be a real person. I went with a lot of project managers, PMs on projects, and the one thing they all did really well was they walked in with a big smile and a loud, boisterous energy and said, I'm so glad to be here. How you doing, Tom? How you doing, Nancy? And it immediately made it feel more like a family engagement than a business engagement. So that's number 1. Shake hands. Remember their names. Remember, you did the research already. Remember their names, all right? That's important. People really do care if you remember their name. I'm not the best on that. I know that about myself, so I have to make a special effort to remember names. But that people care. Tour the facility. Hey, give us a tour. Walk us through. They want to show you about their stuff. They want to brag about what they've built. So you do a tour. You listen really carefully, okay, about what you're seeing and hearing as you walk through the tour, as you hear their impact. They might say, well, you know, we had this previous guy, but now that could be a hint. Well, you know, we just upgraded this part of the operation. That's a hint. Well, you know, we're thinking we should expand, but well, these are hints, and they'll tell you all this stuff as you're walking through. And you're not just casually listening. You're listening with the intent to create and write down burning platform issues, BPIs, from this discovery, from this engagement right now. You're in the introduction stage and you're going to get a lot of info. You're going to see all the people who are in the C-suite and then the middle managers and then the employees, which is that pyramid of knowledge. Remember, the top pyramid this is the CEO, but the bottom of the pyramid is where all these workers live, and they have lots of knowledge down here. They're the ones turning the cranks. In our Gemba Walk, the Japanese philosophy of how we go to where the work is being done and we discover, you're going to see that as you're doing the walkthrough and as you talk to people. So, okay, you come back to the CEO's office. You've talked to him, you've broken the ice, you've heard some issues. This is where you start getting a little bit deeper, okay? You're going to ask him pertinent questions that came from what you listened. You're going to ask him, why, what do you 3 years from now? Why are you doing it now, and where do you want to go for 3 years from now? You're going to start asking these probing questions, and they're just going to give you data. They're going to give you information. You're writing it down. All right, you pause. Stage 2, you give them the homework. Okay, CEO, great conversation. I'm going to need to talk to some of your people. just to ask some questions. I really got some good insight in the tour, and I appreciate that. Can you get the financials from your CFO so I can make sure to go through those later? You're giving him homework. You're engaging him in the process. You're having him have something to do and bring back to you, okay? You can get the financials yourself by just asking the CFO, but you want them to be part of that process. So they go and they get it, and you go and interview some key people, and you're going to obviously take keynotes and start compiling BPIs on your notebook. You want to do it in paper. I would recommend strongly paper, because it looks like you're listening. If you're on a computer, it looks like you're not listening. So you do paper, they think you're engaged, and you are more engaged. So I recommend paper. So the next stage is stage 3. And this is when you have the full senior management team in attendance. You bring them in. So remember, the first stage was one-on-one with the CEO. You did the tour. The second stage was doing the interviews, getting a little bit more one-on-one with the other members of the staff. And now you bring everybody in for the third stage, which is the full senior management team's in attendance. And you start explaining what it is that you're doing. And the burning platform needs to be explained. This is a great place to do it. You say there was a guy, 1988, the North Sea, up by the United Kingdom, on an oil rig, 50 feet in the air above the ice cold water with sharks, and the platform was burning down. The oil rig was going down. And the roughneck oil worker, he's had a choice. I can stay on the fire and die, or I can jump into the burning and shark-infested waters and maybe die, but at least I can do something different and try to save my life. I can try to save what I'm here for. And he did. He took a leap of faith, and he lived. And he said it was the best decision of his life, but it was a hard one, because he wanted to just be there where it was safe and easy and normal on the platform, even though it was burning down. But he had to make a decision. And that's kind of where we're at with these businesses that we're consulting, is that they are in a place where they have many burning issues. And to do the same thing over and over again, obviously insanity, right? They're going to gradually become less and less effective and relevant in the market. So we need to help them take a leap to change their process. That's the important part of how we recognize burning platform issues, BPIs, the burning issues that are going on in the company. Now, we're not looking for perfection here. Key, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progression. So as we move forward, not, well, you can get 3% next year and then 2.5 points. We're not looking for perfection. We're saying progression is, okay, we're going to have some growth. We're going to strive for this. This is the direction we're going. You're trying to be on the business versus in the business. You're trying to be ideation here. And you bring the team together and you play the cutting through the yellow game. All right? Now, this is fun because it's an icebreaker. It brings this whole senior management team to start having a laugh. Okay? That's important to do. There's many ways you can do it. This is one of the ways. There's many games you can play. But basically, you have everyone write down 3 items that are yellow. Now, think about it yourself. What are you going to write down? I'm going to write down banana, a school bus, and a Tetris cube, like a Lego. That's what I'm going to write down. I got my 3 pieces, okay? They're going to write down other stuff. They might write down, I know nothing else that's yellow. My mind is blank on the yellow all of a sudden. Whatever is on your mind, you're going to write down. Okay, you're going to ask, okay, what's the correct answer? What am I thinking? What is yellow? They're going to start arguing that their yellow is the yellower. Buses are kind of orange. A banana can go bad. They're going to start arguing which is really the yellowest of the yellow, okay? And then, in the end, if their choice isn't the item that I have in my bag, then it's wrong. I have in my bag Post-its, by the way. And these Post-its in this little bag, they don't know. They might think that I have a banana, and I'm like, nope, that's not. They don't even know why, because it is yellow. But why is it wrong? See, this is another key. We don't want to react on how we feel. We want to act on what we know. Right now, when they're upset that their yellow wasn't the one that I chose, they're going to react on how they feel. They feel wronged. They feel like we didn't hear them. Those these feelings, right? But we want to act on what we know. What do we know? Well, we know that it's this size and et cetera, et cetera. And you end up teaching them a lesson about that it's not about what they think, it's about what is. And if we remove ourselves and our emotion from that discussion, then we can really make smart financial decisions, smart decisions going forward. That's key. And it teaches a lesson right away. It shows your value as an advisor as a mentor, as part of the team, to get their minds in the right place, which is a big part of advising. Remember, it's 50-50. It's business improvement and it's people. And this shows the people aspect a little bit. So after you're done with the icebreaker, and they feel like there's some value you might have, some wisdom, you might have some wisdom for them, then you go into some actual hard business improvements. You're going to get to the theory of constraints. You're going to teach them this process, which is there are constraints in the business that are holding up the progression of the throughput from creation to delivery of this product. The whole supply chain there's some constraints there. Now, where are the constraints? We want to find out. So these are the questions you'll ask. I'll just read them here from the handbook. You discuss their numbers using terms they may not be familiar with, but it shows that you're authoritative, okay? Don't be bashful on using the jargon that you know, because that'll show that you know what you're talking about. So that's one, that's part of the presentation, but ask what their percent of revenue is that goes to their cost of goods sold, their COGS, and for their overhead, and for their balance sheet payments. Get all those percent of revenues written out. COGS, overhead, and then other debt, okay? And then show an actual percent of revenue on a pie chart. Okay, the pie chart is, well, your COGS is 35% of the business and your overhead is 70% of the business and your extra debt payments are 10% of the business, and start lining it up. Then start talking about people and their responsibilities. Okay, now that we know where the financials are, let's see who's responsible for what. Now they're going to think in their head, oh, we have all the hats. We wear all the hats. Well, all of us do everything. That's kind of normal and it's not as productive. So this is going to kind of get them in their silos, which we want. We want to get them in their divisions. So we start assigning people titles. You say, you're the chief operating officer. And he's like, I was just the manager. But now he has the title of chief operating officer. He might feel a little bit more special. You're the chief marketing officer. You're the CTO. You're the CFO. You start putting these out there. So that gets them to start thinking, okay, I have a certain role. That's good. You talk about company culture. We are what we do, okay? We have this pie chart of the money, and now we have these roles. What is it we do? And we have to own that's what we are. We can't say we want to do something more than what we do. We are what we do. And then the very end of this section is we have to trust where we're going. Trust what we've done. We have to trust where we're at. This is key because remember, we're doing both. We're doing people and business. So we're prepping it up for the next stage of this engagement, which is everyone agrees in the room. Trust is T, which is we're going to tell truth, not half truth, but full truth. We're going to respect each other. We're not going to be rude. We're going to, be on the team. We're going to understand what is real. Remember that yellow? Remember that we have to get the real data. We have to really know information. We can't just be guessing from our gut. The S for trust is support. We have to support each other. And last T is transparency. We don't want to keep anybody in the dark. We want everybody in the company to know all the things that we're going toward, all of our goals. The companies that are really siloed off where nobody knows what's happening, meaning the employees, they don't have nearly the change that if you bring everybody on board and you change together, that does the most work to get us where we want to go. So that transparency is super important. The whole team agrees to trust each other, the TRUST, and then you assign all of them individually to think of 2 BPIs tonight that they're burning issues that for their division, they want to change this pie chart, to change what our COGS and our overhead and our debt payments, to change that pie, to fix issues they're going through. What are 2 things? You want to send them home with that homework. That brings us to stage 4. Now, stage 4 is the buy-in. You want to leave the client with wanting more, but you also want them bought in so that they continually think about the process as you're away overnight, okay? So you did leave the senior management team with their homework, their BPIs they're going to create for the next day. You also now are asking the owner one-on-one, why and why now? I'll bring that document up here on the screen. So why and why now? You're going to have them physically write down 4 transformational goals that they have. What do they really want? What are their goals they really want? Then you're going to have them write down the 3 concerns that they have in doing that transformation? Like what concerns would they have to take it on? Is it financial? Is it effort? Is it staff? What is it? And then what barriers, external barriers, other barriers, threats that exist that would stop them in achieving those goals? And then finally, yes, all that's true, and we want to do this. Why? What's the primary motivator they have? Like what's their motivation? You get all that written up. Okay, that's key to get it written up by the owner. And then your stage 4 is over. We're on to stage 5, where you come in and say, I've gotten all this data from you. I've gotten all those interviews done with your staff. I've walked through your facility. I've been here now for a few hours. I really appreciate the time. You show appreciation. And I'm not sure if we can get to the 3-to-1 assurance. We usually do 10-to-1 for our clients. We usually earn them 10-to-1 on our costs. But, we have to go back and evaluate this. We don't have an answer today. You always are there. We're not sure. Let's go back and talk. I'm going to bring in my team. Remember, this is Burning Issues Group. So we have a group of advisors. I'm going to bring in my team and ask them. I'm going to find out which advisor is the best for this job. Which direction for sure should we go? How much do we think we can actually generate? What's the profit illustration going to dictate? And that's when you tell them you're going to bring back those big impacts that you discovered today. You're going to bring them back in a summary about, if we change these, then here's profit we can generate. We're going to bring those back tomorrow. He's going to want to receive that for sure. He wants to see that list. He wants to have it itemized. And you're going to say, I'm also going to bring back the best senior project advisor that I think works best with your company, that has experience here, that I think can take you to the next level. I'm not going to just choose who's ever available. I'm going to choose the best. That's why we are who we are with big advisors, is that we want to make sure that we're client first, and client first means you have the best advisor for your company, not just whoever is available. You schedule the next day's meeting on site, express gratitude, and you head on out with a smile. Remember, you're on the same team. It's a family. So you care about them. So positive energy. Now, it's a key process in the BIGcheck360 that there are certain roles in the progression of this sale and engagement with the client. There's the first lead generation, we call it the big finder, that gets us the lead. Then there's the senior business analyst, the SBA, who then does the BIGcheck360. Then there's the senior project advisor, who the analyst selects to come on this job and hands off to them to then move forward with the rest of the process. Then there's the final, which is the senior project director. That person oversees the advisor, making sure the advisor has that outside voice in the process over the next several weeks and 2 months, 3 months of the process. So we have, again, I'll go over it again, the big finder, that's the lead generation, the senior business analyst, the senior project advisor, and the senior project director, who then oversees the advisor as the engagement continues on. Right now, for the BIGcheck360, it's almost all the senior business analysts. All day 1, day 0, day 1, the beginning of day 2, all that is the senior business analyst. Now, the reason we have the system of those different roles is because scalability. We obviously need to hit as many leads as we can. And if somebody's going to get the lead and that person does the analyst work, the BIGcheck360, and that person then is the advisor on the engagement, well, that's not scalable. That's a one-person side consulting gig that most consulting gigs out there emulate. That isn't what Big Advisors is about. Burning Issues Group is not about that. We're about the group. And so, yes, we have a team of advisors, and they stay on a job for those 2 months, but the big finder can keep generating leads, and the senior business analyst can keep going to those leads and those meetings and continually trying to open up with the BIGcheck360. And then we plug in the advisors as they fit when the job's open. So that's how we have the structure, so you can get as many jobs in a year as you possibly can for your big region. If we don't do that, if we start saying, okay, the big analyst, the business analyst is also going to be the advisor, or the lead generation guy is also going to be the advisor, what you're doing is you're taking these pieces off the board. You're putting them to use, but not efficiently. We're trying to go to market efficiently so we can have this scalability and get as many jobs done as possible. That way you can make as much money as possible too, and help as many clients as you can help. That's the key for me. You get more clients helped in this system than by shuffling people around. So if you need to call on us at the headquarters, Great. We'll send you some advisors to fill in to keep your lead generation going. We'll send you some analysts if you don't have one available to keep the process moving forward. We'll help you out. We'll supplement your local talent because we want to make sure the client's helped and your scalability continues. The name of this group we would send to you is called the SWAT team. The SWAT team is available. They're highly professional. We only select them because they're the best advisors or analysts or in their role, and we apply them to your area for the same price that you're already paying your local people. This is not additional fee. We don't get any kickback on it. This is part of being part of our network, part of the Burning Issues group. To have a big region, you should have access to other people who they want to help clients too. If they're not on a job right now, they want to come to you. They want to help. Now, of course, there's travel costs to cover, but that's done through the contracts with the client. That's not on the shoulders of the big founder or the big region's expenses, but there is a little bit of consideration there. But those resources are available for sure. And we don't charge as the headquarters for that connection. That's just because we're in the network. And when they come to you, they get the compensation structure that you have built in your network. Some big regions are going to pay a slightly varying commission. We're okay with that. We're not going to put our foot down and you have to charge this or get this compensation, but whoever comes into your area has to submit to your region rules. Now, if you have rules that they don't like, they might refuse. So keep that in mind, but we're all a team and we're trying to work together and trying to help clients. That's really the key in this. And if we look at us as a group, as a network, I think we'll be a lot more successful and happy in our own lives and in our business. Just like the advisors you have in your region, the SWAT team comes with specialties as well. And those are itemized on the checklist that we have for the SWAT team. When you're looking through on who you can invite over, it'll have who's available right now and what businesses they've serviced in the past and what their specialties are. If it's more an operational focus or more of a sales focus, or maybe they're a jack of all trades, we'll have that itemized for you to see. Because maybe you want to keep that in mind when you're selecting which SWAT team member will help you the best for your client. Remember, the client's first, second, and third. And so choosing the right advisor is key. So now we're on stage 6. You've left the client. They're buying in. They're bought in. They're excited. They want to hear what you're going to bring back tomorrow from the big impact summary and from the profit illustration. So you come back home. You discuss the client with the prospective advisor you think is the best fit. You may have to talk to 2 or 3 of them, depending on who's available, depends on, get some feedback. You create a client folder in the Google Drive. You share all the info, all the links with the senior project advisor, and you put it in the folder and you share it with the advisor so they can review it. And you create the big impact summary. This is important now. You do that. I'll show you how right now on my screen. I'll get it set up for you. The big impact summary and the profit illustration. Let's go to that right now. The big impact summary is going to be right here. These key deliverables, operations, leadership, sales, and you're plugging it into our big impact summary. Now, what you're doing is you're going through your notes, and when your notes say that they need a pricing strategy adjustment because their pricing may be off, you grab here and you plug it in to the corresponding section right here. Easy peasy. Let's say they have, you need to do a competitor analysis. They don't know anything about their competitors. This is another key issue you're thinking about for them. So you go in here, again, you're still in sales, you pop it in. Now, whether or not we systematize this later within Big Suite or not, that doesn't matter. The key is you're taking these negative impacts, these big impacts from the certain sections that make sense. Cash flow, they don't track their cash. And you're taking those and you're plugging them in to the right section on their big impact summary. You start filling it up with the things that are the issues. Don't stop because you hit 5 or 6 and that's a lot. No, you go and you do all of them. All of the issues that you've come up with, you put them all in there. And you put this negative side in there now. Later, we'll use this part, this description, but not today. Overnight, the first night, overnight, you're taking these negatives from this list of deliverables that we have out here. If you believe that there's a deliverable that's not on this sheet and you want to throw it into leadership, I don't know, you pick a place, go ahead and handwrite it in there. You can write it in there. New deliverable, new stuff, whatever you want to call it, put it in there. You're not bound to what we've already created. And if you come up with amazing deliverables, we can apply them to the whole organization. So we've just created the big impact summary. Now we're going to create the profit illustrations, the financial illustrations for the client. We're doing this the night of the first day. We're doing that night. And we're taking the financial knowledge we gained from the financials that they gave us that day. If they don't give us the financials, we really have a hard time creating this. So just make sure you get those financials day one. Because when you come back in day two, you're presenting this to the client. This is a persuasive document to show them where they can go. This is where they can see the numbers. It makes it more tangible. It's not just words and fluff. So we're going to show them the math. This is important here where it says all the financial data essential for developing this was directly provided to BIG by you and your management personnel. This is us telling that to the client. We've considered these sources to be dependable for our work. So it means we've got these numbers from you. We're not liable for this data, but if your numbers are right, this is what we think we can do. That's the idea for this boilerplate document up here. Now you're down here to the client provides the 2 years ago annual revenue, net profit, and wages and salaries. You can put another item if you want to put another thing on there as well. COGS, you can put different financials, but they're not necessary for the profit illustration. Right now we're gathering data, and you really just need the annual revenue and the net profit. But you can collect other items as well. It shows that you're thinking more about their business. And maybe for your engagement, you might find some value. You do that for last year as well. And then the future projected annual growth, you take those 2 years and you're like, okay, well, this is growing at 7% a year. We're going to keep doing the same, I'm supposing. Or you say, oh, we've lost. We're negative 2% over the last 2 years. We're going to keep losing. Whatever the real number is, you just put it in there. So let me show you how you do the math, okay? Tax savings illustration. This is your formula right here. You take their sales that they had. You're projecting, remember you're projecting their annual revenue at this much growth. So if their annual revenue was $1 million a year, and you're projecting a 5% increase, you're projecting $1,050,000, okay? Then you take that times these percentages. So $1,050,000, don't laugh at me, guys, and you multiply times 0.0086, and that gets you 9,030, and you plug that right in here, 9,030, okay? And then you do the same math times 0.014114, 11,970. You plugged it in right here. That's your first year's savings are those numbers. Now, that's like $9,000 to $11,000. It's not a lot, but it's something. We're projecting that our tax preparers can help them save that much more in year one. You do the same math for year 2 and year 3. You do it for all 3 years to move forward the next 3 years if they were to implement our tax advice that we're going to generate with our tax professionals. Not today, but we're projecting that's what we can achieve for them. Because generally we do achieve for them in those numbers. You add them together for the whole 3 years, and you put it down here as a total projected tax savings over 3 years as our guesstimate. On the growth, let's go back over to the other doc. Again, this is in your operations manual. The growth illustration, your profit illustration, you take the top 25% of the industry. You get this information from AI. You ask it, in the roofing and siding industry, what's the top 25%? So you're going to the profit growth illustration. This profit illustration, you're going to AI, okay? You're going to ask AI what the industry's top performers are doing. You're going to type in there, in the roofing and siding industry, what are the top 25% net profit performers? As a percentage of annual revenue, what are the top 25% earning? Remember, over here in this document, you're going to have estimated new profit which is the net profit, additional net profit. That's what you're talking about, okay? So the top 25%, let's say that they're at 20% net profit versus revenue. They're at 20%, and that's our number. Well, we already said, if you go back to this document up here, we already said they were at like 5 or 7 or -2, whatever number is here. That difference between the 5 that they have and the 20 that's the industry average, that's the difference. But you're not going to get to the top number 1 performer. You're going to get to that top quartile, that top 25%, which is why we worded it that way. The top 25% of the industry. That gets them up to that 20%. That's what you want. So that difference is between 5 and 20. That's 15%. So you take the math, coming down here, take the math of $1 million. Next year it's going to be $1.5 million, right? Times an additional 15%. So this first line is $157,000. But you're not going to achieve it in year 1. You're going to achieve half of it in year 1, again half of the remaining in year 2, and again half in the rest in year 3. So I'll go through it with you real fast. So this is your total take, okay? But you're going to take that times 5. So you're going to put 78 here, and then you're going to say 118 here, which is again 50% more, and then the full 157 here. You add those 3 together as additional new revenue if we do these changes, and that's your profit right here. Now you're saying to yourself, that's like $500,000. That's what you're saying. Well, yeah. Why else are they going to pay us, right? So that's why you're getting this number down here, is because you have the half of the growth versus the industry average, and then half again, and then the full in the year 3. And that's where we get to our percentage. That's the document. Now, to be honest with you, I think we're going to get there year 1, but we're trying to be cautious on this. We're trying to be believable and conservative in our numbers. And that's how you get through the profit illustration. We've already done the big impact summary with our big plan deliverables, which we went through already, into the big 5 sections. And now you get the advising agreement ready. I'll show you what that looks like. Big advising agreement, you just print this out. This is a document you have access to. You bring it with you. So tomorrow when you're with them, you can fill out the client's name. You can go over that these are the people, these are our titles, this is what we're doing, this is our plan that we're going to implement. This is our process. You walk through these bold sections, especially with the client, and you go into our pricing, $4.95 an hour, any kind of mileage or other additional expenses of travel. They need to know this. You go over it. We're not ashamed of it. It's very straightforward. How long the duration will go, you have full control throughout the engagement to choose to conclude or recess our services at the end of any business day. And the reason they have that, we tell them that, is because they do have that right, but also because it relieves their stress that they're signing a contract that's indefinite. We want a contract where it's only for a 1 day at a time, a day at a time. And if we're producing and we're giving deliverables, the client's happy, they're going to keep us around. And that's what we're trying to give them the comfort of. We're not going to compete with them. Not completing this consulting engagement may mean that you don't get the benefits. That's true. But also that we're not going to take their secrets and compete against them. We're going to make sure their information is protected, and also in return, they're not going to employ or engage services with any of our advisors directly. This is a key, because we don't want our advisors going off and becoming the CSO at a company because they loved that client. We want to keep that arm's length as much as we can, because they're working for us on this engagement. And then we're not going to, obviously we will not discuss the contents with anybody that they haven't authorized. We write down when this is going to start, which in this case would be the next day. This is going to be day 2. So we're going to say whatever tomorrow is. And then the big impacts, the highlights, the things on that wishes and why now, the why and why now document. You plug those in here so that the client sees them and understands and remembers, oh, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this. We have this document at being valued at $19.95. We X that out in person in front of them. You mark it out with them saying, we're not going to charge you. We waived this like we talked about. You put in the estimated hours to complete the engagement. If you think those big impacts are, we usually quantify it at about 8 to 10 hours each. So if you have 20 items on that big impact summary at 10 hours each, you're talking about 200-hour engagement. If you have 30 items on there, it's 300-hour engagement. That's just how we do our math, 10 hours each. So you come in here and you put those hours in here, and then you'll leave the cost of our big plan is the $49.50. We always do it that price, as you see here. And there's no secrets. This being done physically, in paper, printed out for the client to see, the ceremony of it, the tactile memory of it, the engagement of it is really, really important. It's crucial for this process. They're physically signing. You're physically putting in the whys and whys nows, or you're having them write them in. Now, you remember the whys yesterday, sir. Write them in right here. We want to have this done. You get them engaged. This is not us coming in and doing it for them. This is doing it with them. So this process is key to show that. And they do understand that they're going to be charged this $49.50 if they move forward the next day with the advisor. Now, you're still coming back the next day, and you're going to give them this, but you're putting it together the night before. Remember, we're on day 1 in the evening. You're putting it together the night before. Day 2. Day 2 comes the next day. You're bringing the advisor with you, a senior project advisor that you selected. And the first thing you're going to go over with them is money. Because guess what? They've been thinking about money all night. That's what's on their mind. Let's just get to it. We're going to jump right into it on the next day. So the financial illustrations, you put together almost like a P&L on a white sheet. And the top is your sales, and then your operations is in the middle, and then your financial of paying debt and etc. and getting paid yourself. Those are the 3 top to bottom. You put in sales, operations, and finance. And next to the sales, you put their total revenue. Now, this is a really janky looking profit and loss on the white sheet, but that's okay because we're doing it by hand on the wall. So you put sales, their total revenue is $1 million. You write it next to it. Ops, their COGS, okay, their COGS are, let's say it's 50%. So it's $500,000, 50%, okay? We got these numbers the day before, if you remember, when they gave us those percentages when we were with the senior management team. When we were with the whole team, they gave us those numbers. That's where we have them from. Then you take away the cost of the overhead. You had the overhead in there. That's the financial. And then you have the net operating income underneath it. The owner distributions and the taxes. How much is the owner making? They're going to say, well, I don't make any money right now. You're going to say, well, you're going to take, and you put down a number that they're going to take, leaves you your net income. Then you take out your debt, which is the last, and that gives you your available cash. This is a lot of steps. The reason you're doing a lot of steps is because you want to make sure that they know, that you know all the costs, all the inputs. They don't want to think you're too shallow here. They want to believe that you know what you're talking about. So you do sales, then the ops, then the overhead. So sales, COGS, overhead, distributions, and then any kind of debt payments that we owe. But you obviously pay yourself first. That's why it comes before the debt payments. And all those get put on that one sheet. And you show their percentage of the revenue on the pie chart. Remember that? You had the pie chart, okay? You're showing that next to them. And you say this year's revenue goal is going to change based on what? Based on the profit percentages. Based on these improvements. Right here, this 15% growth. We're actually going to have that be higher. And now what they're seeing on the paper is we're only getting 5%. Now we're going to get 20%. And that goes straight to the bottom. And that 20% is much higher than the 5%. This is real money. This is how you're showing it on the paper. You now ask them, how are we going to get there? How are we going to get that 15%, the additional from the 5 to 20? And they say, well, we don't know. That's why we have you here. That's what they're going to say. And they're going to laugh about it. And then you say, well, actually, you do know. You guys have your BPIs. I asked you to bring 2 BPIs each. And they say, yeah, you're right. We did. I say, what's your BPIs? You guys each come up and you write them on the wall here. And they'll come up and they'll write them on the wall. You're very interactive with them. They come up and they write them on the wall of what they think their BPIs are, each of them. And then as a group, we rank which ones will have the largest financial impact. Now, we're not sure, and we're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking for progression. As a team, we say these are the top 2 or 3 BPIs that we came up with overnight that are going to get us the most revenue. And this shows them how we're going to get the money, in theory, that we're projecting in this growth, this connection. The BPIs, the burning issues, solving them, gaining them the benefit from that, and applying it right to the bottom line of the company. That's the process. It may be coming across a little hit or miss here, but when we do it in person, it'll be better. And we're going to be training in person, on site with you guys, for weeks at a time. We also have Zoom training as well. Anytime, you can call us anytime. Right now, I'm giving you the overhead view, but we'll do it together, and you'll get it. I just want to make sure we had a starting position. Now comes the closing of the senior business analyst. Now remember, he's there with the senior project advisor. All right. This is the closing. You've shown the financial gain. You got everybody's BPIs put in place. You started talking about which ones we're going to fix. You got them excited about how they're going to have difference here and difference there, and they're going to have less headache. Everybody's excited. And now you bring up, these are the big impact summaries that we've came into. I want to itemize them to you. So you gave me your BPIs, you tell the client. You gave me yours, tell the senior management team. But now these are the ones we came up with. And let's see if there's correlation here. You start going through them one at a time. Take your time. Don't rush through them. There's 25 on there. It's going to take a half an hour. It's going to take an hour. That's okay. Because you need to show them the real pain that they're going through. And they need to believe it. You're not trying to be a punk here, but you're trying to be real. So you go through the big impact summary. You show them where they're obviously not meeting their goals, where the revenue is being left behind. And you ask the client, this is the end here. Why are we here? How do we move forward? You remind the client about their whys and whys nows. You give them the advising agreement that we already went over. I'll go back to it though. I want you to see it. And you have them write in here, the client write in on this paper right in front of them. They write in the whys. What they want to get out of this. What they want to fix. What their big impacts are that they really need to have fixed. And they write it in there and they see that we waived this $19.95. And they see it's going to be 200, 300 hours. And they see that today's cost to move forward to get a plan together to address these issues. That's the $49.50. That's what the cost is to move forward from today. There's no cost today, but to move forward today, if you want us to, give you a plan to address these big issues. It's $49.50. They're going to sign it. It's no worries. So they've done the advising agreement. They've signed it. They've agreed. They've talked about how it's expensive. They talked about how there's costs, but right now it's just the 5. Let's get the plan. Let's get this advisor on the team. Let's see how it goes. Let's take it day by day. Remember, there's no commitment. This is a day-by-day engagement, but we usually generate, 10x ROI for our clients. We assure that we're going to do 3 at least, 3 to 1 return, but the advisor will put it together based on your BPIs, based on these big impact summary. He'll put together what we can get. And it's going to be, we wouldn't be back today if we didn't have thought this through last night and put together, yes, we can reach these goals for you. You leave the SPA there, the Senior Project Advisor, to create the big plan. And the SBA, the Senior Business Analyst, me, I'm going to then leave. And I transfer to be the senior project director, most likely, and someone else might be better suited if I'm too busy in the scaling process that we talked about earlier. We want to scale this business model. I can fill in as the senior project director because I know the whole business. I've met with the owner multiple times. I know what I'm doing here, but someone else could also fill in that role if need be. It depends on how tight your labor is. And that's the entire senior business analyst work. The next part, of course, would be where the advisor takes over.